I started, my mom got me this Yamaha keyboard from Costco. I think it was on sale when I was maybe like 5 years old. And then so I started playing with that. And then she sent me to like the YMCA to do like these piano lessons starting from when I was a kid like that. And my mom didn't really listen to a lot of music. My dad was super into music. He wasn't really into hip hop, but he listened to a lot of Motown, and he grew up like in the 80s, so he grew up listening to a lot of also 80s funk. And every day going to school, he would just play that radio station, 105.1 K Ocean, out in Monterey. It's different now. I think now they play like, they don't play the same music no more. But anyway, that was kind of my introduction to music in general. And my introduction to hip hop was actually through my uncle. So my whole dad's side of the family, they came here as refugees from the Vietnam War in like the late 70s. And when my dad, my uncle, and my two aunts, when they came over, they were all like high school age. My dad was the oldest one. I think he was like a senior. Uncle was a little younger. And so they kind of, they went to high school here in America, and it was during the 80s. So they got situated, I think, with, whatever was hot at the time. And my uncle in particular, he listened to a lot of freestyle, like Stevie B. And then after that, he listened to a lot of like G-Funk. And I don't know really how he got into that, because I think he was out of school by that time. But I remember, my parents would both be working when I was, when I finished school. So my uncle was always the one who picked me up after school when I was a kid. And he would just have these CDs. He'd have Too Short, Married to the Game. He had Snoop Doggy Style. Those are the two main ones I remember. He had those two, and he had like a bunch of other like assorted like Chinese CDs and like a bunch of other like hip hop CDs and R&B CDs. But he would always be playing one of those, whenever he picked me up and drove me. So that's kind of how I got, introduced to hip hop in general as a kid. And then I think when I was maybe in like middle school, 12 or 13, I started just like making my own songs. Not just hip hop, but I was like playing some stuff on the piano. I was singing. And I think that was like kind of my intro into producing in the first place. I was like maybe 13. I met this dude in high school or middle school, I don't remember, who had FL Studio. He had like a cracked version of FL Studio, and he put me onto that. He was like, hey, let me show you how to make some beats. And then so we used to make some beats together. And we would there were a few like local rappers in Salinas that we would like work with on some of these beats. But then honestly, like I was thinking to myself, like, man, I could do better than a lot of these dudes. So I started writing stuff myself. And around that time too, like 2008, 2009, like DatPiff was where I was spending a lot of my time on the internet. So I was getting really heavy into Wayne mixtapes, a lot of punchline rap, and so I started writing like that as kind of like my style, I guess. And from then on, that was pretty much it. I was just like I was making music just kind of as a hobby for a little bit. Probably wasn't until like 2-3 years ago that I started actually doing serious releases and figuring that this is something I want to do. Yeah, so I think family has always been an important part of my music and kind of my identity. Actually, when I was growing up as a kid, I grew up between Salinas and San Jose, which are, Salinas is in the Central Valley, California, and it's mainly like agricultural town. There's not too many like Asian people there. It's mostly like, everybody else other than Asians. So, I went to school there. It was a little weird growing up as an Asian person because everyone's calling you Tino. Everyone's like not really looking at your. People aren't like used to you. You're kind of outsider, right? So that's kind of how I felt like growing up. And on the flip side, my dad was out in San Jose. My parents broke up when they divorced when I was like 5 years old. And San Jose was like very much different in that there were a lot more Asian people there, particularly like in the Vietnamese. I'm Chinese Vietnamese, but in the Vietnamese community up there. So it was kind of different growing up between the two. And I spent more time, I think, in Salinas because I went to school there. And a lot of times, especially in elementary school and like middle school, I was like kind of ashamed of like my race and stuff. People would make fun of my food, make all these jokes about me and stuff. So I was like, damn, I wish I wasn't Asian. I wish I was something else. And I think that's like a mindset that a lot of kids kind of face if in that situation, because this is a trait that they have that they're being like outcasted kind of for. And it wasn't until I got a little older that I started to appreciate you know, the uniqueness of my culture and my family and my traditions. And, you know, coming from, I don't know how it is for a lot of other families, but, you know, my family in particular didn't really like to talk about like the hardships and whatnot. You know, there wasn't like super in your face. It was like, you know, we're here in America now. You know, all that stuff is in the past. You know, we're going to, you know, do the best that we can with what we got here. And so, like, you know, that topic kind of never came up. It wasn't until actually I had a school assignment that told me that I had to like interview like some family members about like their history and whatnot. So it wasn't until that happened that like, you know, I talked to my aunt. She was like the person I think that's usually been like the most open to me about it. And, you know, she started breaking down like the whole, you know, everything that happens with the war and like how they came over here on like a boat. And it was like this crazy story that I just like, you know, I had no idea about. And after I heard about that, I started doing research. You know, she was talking about how like, basically after like the fall of Saigon, you know, everybody's like trying to escape, trying to go to America, you know. So my grandpa and like the whole family and a few other people got like this boat, and they got on this boat. They tried to get to America. The boat got attacked by pirates, which was apparently like a big thing during that time. There were a lot of pirates who attacked a lot of these refugee boats and kind of raided them, took their stuff, killed people. And so their boat got attacked by one of these pirate boats, and they got basically left for dead until like Red Cross picked them up and sent them to this island, I think Bidong Island, which is, they call it like Hell Isle or something. But it was this island where a lot of refugees had to go to that had like failed escapes. And they were stuck there for maybe like a year or 2 years. And then a lot of just crazy shit went down there. You know, like my grandma almost died of like dysentery because like the sanitary conditions weren't good. All this crazy shit. And, you know, eventually they made their way over here to America. But, you know, hearing that whole story, I was like, damn, that sounds like it's straight out of a movie. You know, you don't really see that story told really in media. But it's like such a, I don't know, it's like kind of action packed, but it's also so real that this is an experience that a lot of people did go through. And not even that long ago. Like this was maybe like 30 years ago. Oh shoot, it's 2020 now. This is like 40, 50 years ago now. but you know what I mean? So yeah, so after I learned all that history, I wanted to incorporate some of that into my music, you know, as somebody who at the time I didn't really have a platform. I was just kind of starting out, but I knew I wanted to make music that, you know, something to say. And so I put out that first project, Mooncakes, which was kind of about like my experience as an Asian American from a family of immigrants. And, you know, I know like not everybody, of course, is going to have the exact same experience as my family has had. But I think there's definitely elements within that journey here and within that struggle that a lot of people could relate to. So I just wanted to kind of share that. And that was kind of like the intent behind that first project I put out. So, you know, my first project as Chow Mane was Mooncakes. That was that EP out in like 2017. And yeah, that's, you know, since then, you know, I haven't had a project that really is like focusing in on that in particular, but I definitely think like when I'm writing and when I'm thinking about my experiences, family and my heritage is definitely like a part of the process.